My name is Tommi Lechner. Everybody calls me Tommy. I'm the head of production here at Film Akademie. We have about 300 production each year, so it's a pretty tough job to coordinate everything logistically, the organization, from the safety standards. Everything has to be safe and full. So that's my job, and I just hand over to Guido.
My name is Guido. I work with the management of the film school as a consultant, and I'm running the international office of the school, which means I'm in charge of everything that has to do with student mobility, exchange programs, co-productions with other film schools, and things like that. The Film Akademie has been created in 1991. In an effort to strengthen the film industry in the southwestern part of Germany. So it's a state-run school, publicly financed school, and ever since then the academy has been growing from a very limited number of students in the first year, I believe less than 50, to around 450 students who are visiting the academy at this very moment. The basic concept of the academy is to teach film in the learning by doing way. So students start from their first year on, within a 4-year program. They start from their first year on actually to get involved in productions that become bigger and bigger year by year, and that are very highly specified. So we have advertisement, directing, we have feature film, we have documentary, we have TV journalism. We have a big branch of animation, and so we are very, very specialized. And the basic concept of the academy is to give it a shape that is very similar to the world outside. So, as a student here, you will have to be quite proactive in order to form your team, because you, as a directing student, you will have to seek for a production student to produce a film, and for a camera student. And the school there's very little in terms of telling students what to do, which films to shoot. It's a very liberal way of teaching there. And the thing we produce a great amount of films every year because of that, because everything we do is sort of in a way done in a practical way. The objective of the government was that they saw that different regions of Germany have a very strong film and media industry. It was growing very quickly at the time. And the southwestern part of Germany, we are close to Stuttgart here, so we are traditionally a region that's very industrial. Mercedes-Benz, Porsche is here, the Bosch company, so international, a great number of international corporations have their head offices here. And so the idea was to shift a little bit from that strictly industrial orientation of the region towards a more media-oriented design. It's been highly diversified from the beginning on, because there was little media professionals in the region to rely on, which is the case with many other film schools. For instance, if you think about Columbia University in New York, it's a very small school educating only in directing, production, and scriptwriting, I think, because they would find all the other parts of their film production, all the other crew members within the area. And this hasn't been the case here. So the school really had to emulate, in a way, a film industry in a nutshell.
The SWR is a network here in Germany. Actually, it's a broadcasting company, or it's actually a broadcaster, and they need program, right? I mean, every broadcaster needs program. We are pretty advanced in our films, and we give the students the chance to make co-productions with this network. And they embrace us. I mean, they need short films for their program at night or something. And so we're working together since the beginning, actually. So that was pretty good. And And it's also very good for the students to come in touch very early stage in their studies with commissioning editors and TV programmers, so they know the market pretty much. That's the main goal of our school, that we connect them pretty early with the industry, so they know what they need, know what they want. The industry gets the new voices of students and the newcomers. I mean, that's very important to them, so they stay fresh and they know what's going on outside and what the youth wants. That's the most important part for their achievements with us. The main part of the financing of these projects and films comes from the TV broadcasting.
So usually students would have long-running internships before they join the Film Akademie, because the studies here really don't allow for things like that. So it's a 4-year program, and during these 4 years you will have a hard time in adding on some sort of jobs or internships besides that. And so the practical aspect and the connection towards the broadcasters and production companies is all more or less part of the studies. It's part of the courses and what we are doing here. And so it's not in a way that we see ourselves as a school and then in the final year there's a connection towards the industry, but we put a very strong emphasis on the relation to the market, to the real world from the first year of the education on.
Most of our professors come from the industry. We have only about 2 or 3,
tenure track.
Yeah.
We have very little tenure track professors, but practitioners in the first place, who are allowed to call themselves professors after having taught 5 years or so at the academy, so they get that title, but they are not professors in an academic sense.
I would say, it depends. A director will not have a steady income job, right? Because he's an artistic fellow. But let's talk about cameraman or actually producers. We teach a producing class, and I would say at least 80%, 80 to 85% have a steady job right after they leave the school. That's a pretty high. It's a pretty high percentage, I think, and we're really happy and proud of it that we manage through these professors who come to our schools and teach there and make connections and network with them. So it works pretty good for the students who leave the place. It depends on what subject they study, right? If you're a director, you will be a freelancer forever probably. But with producers and cameramen and so on, it works pretty good.
The ones who are most likely to find full-time employment would be the people from the animation branch, because they work as technical directors, highly specified jobs, or as animators. And those positions are very, very much looked after in Germany as well as worldwide. So there is a very, very high level of success there. Fiction directors naturally would have more of a hard time, finding their position or their way through the industry towards what they actually want to do. And so we have very often the case that people, after like 5 years where we wouldn't hear anything of them, probably would be somewhere with a big film, in the cinemas or something. But it's hard to keep track, because the last time we asked our alumni about what they do, where they are, we received feedback from around 70% of them, and so this is the base on which we, evaluate the whole thing. And but those who are not so successful probably wouldn't answer us or wouldn't give us, correct answers. A film composer, you can train to be an editor, a technical director, an animator, an animation effects producer. You can visit our German-French masterclass for film producers to go into international production.
Let's say advertising, directing. That's for sure. We have screenwriting. We have production design. We are able to make a film within our school, we don't need outside help actually, right? We have a pretty wide diversity in our films. I mean, you just saw the Jagon film, right? But I can show you films. This is in one room with one camera and two actors. So that's we have a big variety. We have to make that clear. In Jagon, so they're oriented in this genre, blockbuster type of films. And so we had to provide them with the equipment, with the tools they need for doing that. I mean, we try to support them as much as we can. And our producers are pretty sharp and able people, and they try to reach into the industry and ask people, okay, listen, we come from the film school, why don't you help us? Maybe later on we work together and you can get paid from us, you know? So there's a give and take situation with the industry, and they support and do deals with us. Why did they need so many cameras? I don't know. Maybe that they could have done it differently. But they should try their skills. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But they only know, and we know our professor, they shouldn't tell them what to do. They should tell them, try it out. Try it out and find out. And if it works, it's fine. If it doesn't work, you made your own experience and you know why it didn't work, not because we told you this.
When they start out here, the average age is around, it's between 20 and 22 years. So we have quite young students compared to the other European film schools. But by that time, they already have gathered around 1 year of practical experience. Our 4-year program is divided in 2 years, basic studies, and then 2 years advanced studies. So if you compare it on an international basis, how film schools operate, you could compare it to 2 years. First 2 years would be like the bachelor degree, and then you would have postgraduate, you would have graduates in the third and fourth year. That's about the level. First, it's a practical education from day one on. So the first 2 years, the only difference is that we give them a frame that doesn't allow them to do as much. So they would, in the very first film they are shooting here, would be in one setting. They would be allowed to shoot one day, I think with 2 actors, and so it's very controlled, and they have to deliver a week after, like that. And then it's getting more open, and so the first and second year are in a way protected because we are not allowing any cooperations there the first 2 years. So it's this protected space of the school where you can do trial and error, and it will not have any great effect. And then from the third year on, you will be allowed to get involved into co-productions, corporations, larger budgets. So this is the structure. And so what, you know, in our way of thinking, it is the first 2 years protected space, and then the second 2 years open space towards their professional orientation. In the first 2 years, I would like to add, we have they are visiting a lot of the classes together. You know, no matter what their specific majors are. So they would a DOP would have to direct a film. A sound recordist would have to write a script, all like that. And so they learn, you know, all the positions in the set, and before they specialize in the film. We have a beautiful campus, but there's no housing for the students here. So this is part of their job to find a place to live here, which is in the Stuttgart region. It's not so simple. It's compared to the German average. It's quite expensive, but still, I think because we don't charge any tuition fees, it's affordable to most students. Yeah. Right. And we have a three-step application system here. So in the first step, you would have to tell us why you are intending to visit the school, and you would have to hand in some practical works that you have already done. And then on the basis of that written part of the application, we would decide whom to invite in the second, to the second step. And in this particular step, they would be given
Tests,
tests, but practical tests, and they would have to shoot a film, which we call it 72 hours film. So within 72 hours, they will have to write a script, direct the film, edit it, post-produce it, and then screen it in front of the jury, who then, as a third step, decides who to take in when they go and defend the works they have done in this second step. So it's very selective, that's right. And the ratio in fiction directing is around 10 applicants, and one becomes a student. 1 to 10. In other fields, it's not as high. Production is 1 to 5, maybe.
Yeah.
And so it differs from program to program.
Well, it depends on the company, right? I mean, if it's a big shot company, they can pay better. Usually they start as a junior producers. Let's say the producer, that's the only hired gun, right? Between 3,000 and 3,500 euros each month.
So, if you want to become a student at Film Akademie, you will have to accept that we teach in German. So this means the number of non-German students we attract is naturally quite limited. We have a number of Austrian students here, a number of Swiss students here, because it's not, geographically it's not far. And then some Chinese, some Turkish students. The percentages, I can't tell you the exact number, but I would say somewhere between 5 and 10%.
No, actually, our ambition is to keep the way we are, actually. I mean, it's not that we have to move on like the industry moves on. We have to see the market, what the market needs, and we will provide the students with the knowledge the market asks us for, especially in this digital world with transmedia stuff. I mean, this is really more and more important. When we ask the students, do you have a TV set at home, they say no. So we have to conquer that world of digital distribution, digital media. Netflix just started their program in Germany last month. So we know, and the students know exactly where to move on. And especially in the animation field, the digital world is getting bigger and bigger and more important. Without it, it would be thinkable. And so we conquer and approach that market, and we have to keep up with it. And that's the main goal with us. Keep up with the ideas of students and keep up with the industry. That's the main thing.
We are trying presently to implement transmedia thinking very deep into the structure of the studies in order to allow the students to develop not from a field like I'm a feature film director, I go and develop feature films, but to start to shift the perspective towards here's the story, here's the project, and which way will I go in order to produce it, to market it, to tell the story.
No, Jagon for us is an ancient name of a hunter or something. It's a mythological name. So that, I mean, and if South Park found out something else about that name, it's their piece of cake,
Some of our students would never again be in the position to produce a film with the amount of material they have access to inside the school. But it is very important for me to state that Film Akademie is not a film school who is aiming in producing a certain kind of filmmaker. We are not going to educate big budget filmmakers. Or we are not the school that is interested mainly in big, impressive visual effects or something. This is the way the students choose to go. And so at the same time, we have not only in the first year, but also in the last year, diploma level, we have films that are made with very little money, very little personnel, very little equipment. And they choose to go a completely different path. And it's very important for me to say that Film Akademie is not a school, you know, where you have the so-and-so school, a certain way of filmmaking, like the dogma filmmaking or something. I think the thing that we really have to offer to our students in the core is that they find themselves and find their own way of artistic expression while at the school. And so a film like Jagon probably would never be made outside the school, you know, not for this budget. But after having done it, the director, the producer, everybody involved in the project will know whether they would like to go on in their professional careers making this type of movie. Many students change, you know, their
Sure. It's especially when you come into the school at 21 and you stay there till 26, let's say that, you know, you have it's that time where you develop most, I think, you know, in your youth, right? And let me say one thing about this Jagon and this kind of like craziness about the equipment and stuff. You have to imagine, and the truth is always in between what we tell you and what's really going on. We are here in Ludwigsburg, that's close to Stuttgart. It's a pretty small town. These kids, they meet each other in bars and clubs, and maybe two of them are in this Ludwigsburg area, right? So they meet each other and they say, hey, let's do it that way. I mean, we could do it that way. And then if these students come to our class or to our school and they ask us how can we get this equipment? We say, if it's there, you can try it. You have to convince us that that's the way you want to do it. If it's the right way, we don't know. We find out at the end.